You're listening to the Empowered Divorce Podcast, where you practice being the chooser in your life again, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me. Hello, my amazing, beautiful listeners. How are you today? How are you feeling in this moment? How are you feeling, and where are you feeling it in your body? Are you feeling sad? When you feel sad, what do you notice in your body? Is that showing up in your chest, in your throat, around your heart? Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention to you and your body? I think this episode may air the week of my Body Awakened Intensive, where we are taking a deep dive into reconnecting back to the body. I am so looking forward to it. The next one will be in Austin, Texas. So be listening for that announcement. If you don't follow me on social media or have my newsletter, head over to amiewoolsey.com to make sure you get that announcement if you are interested in taking a deep dive back into your body. So this past week, I was taking a defensive driving course so that we can save more money on our car insurance. We have way too many people driving in this house. So any way that we can save, we are trying to do that. And so we're taking this defensive driving course. And in this course, it talks about how only our driving behaviors and our choices are what we control. We can't control what others do in their vehicle, but we can prevent possible accidents and injury the best we can with what's in our control. And then it gives a list of what some of those things are in the driving world. And as I'm reading through the list, of course, my mind went to how this relates to life. And y'all know I love the car analogy when talking about parts of us, what parts of us are in charge or don't need to be in charge. So this falls right in line with that. Okay. I'm going to offer 6 things that we can focus on that is in our control bubble, that when we focus on, that when we anchor to, we can limit the chances of injury and incident. We can't prevent them. Before I go into those 6 things, there needs to be a level of radical acceptance around the reality that we are not going to escape this life without incident or injury. We cannot control that. I don't believe it's how life was designed. I believe we as humans can grow and we can learn from those injuries and from those incidents. And learning can in turn help reduce the likelihood of more of the same incident or injury, which is why they're having us take the driving course, right? Scott and I don't have accidents or injuries from driving. But if we learn from others' experience and we focus more on what we can control, take knowledge that other people have learned and gained and apply that, we can reduce the likelihood of that happening. And if we do that, then they're willing to knock off some dollars on our insurance because they are, in fact, then taking a less of a risk on us. So we need to be able, so the same principle applies. And just like y'all, you don't want to get hurt again in a relationship. You don't want the repeater, right? But oftentimes the brain's idea of how to prevent that from happening is just to not get into another relationship at all. Like that's me just saying, I'm not going to drive a car then. I don't want to have an injury or an incident, so I'm just not ever going to drive a car again. My great aunt did that. In fact, her fear of incident or injury led her to choose not to ever learn to drive a car, never learn to ride a bike, never learn to swim. I think it played a little into her not having kids, but fear drove that woman into a state of not sharing those experiences. And I promise she was not any happier for it. The fears we have will grow unless we face them, challenge them, move through them, because inevitably fear wants to keep us small. It wants to keep us contained. It wants to keep us safe. And I'm air quoting that for those of you who can't see me, but safety, real safety, without freedom, the freedom to choose, is just a prettier version of a cage. The life that I believe we all long for, that I believe we are all made for, lives on the other side of trying, of risking that rejection, of choosing to live, even if it means falling down sometimes. We don't have to be fearless, right? We just have to be willing to take charge of fear, let fear sit in the back seat or in the trunk, but never drive the car. So we focus on our freedom. We focus on our ability to choose and what we have control to choose in. So, number one, the first thing that we can control when driving the vehicle through life is our speed. How many of you want to speed through this part of your life? If I could just get through this. You want to speed through the healing. You want to speed through the pain. You want to speed through the divorce. You want to speed through the phase of life that just really sucks. Totally get it. And many of you are like me and just have a hard time slowing down in general, where you just want to go, 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 do, do, do. You love the checklist and we just want to be done with all of this that's on that list. But here's the thing. Driving within the speed limit and at relative speed for conditions is what reduces injury and incident. It's what keeps us safe, not just physically, but emotionally as well. What does that mean to drive the speed limit in life? It means you can't control the legal system. You can't speed through the court timelines or what the court decides, or face healing faster than what your body and brain are ready to allow happen. There are built-in limits in your body, in your brain, and in this world. Even after divorce, let's say the custody agreement becomes part of that speed limit. If you have your kids 50% of the time, that's your 50%. Trying to control what happens at the other parent's house on their 50% of the time, that's you speeding. That's you trying to go beyond what's actually yours to control. Now, my defensive driving manual says two things. It says obey the speed limit and adjust for relative speed. That means paying attention to the environment, to the road conditions. Sometimes, even if it's legal to go faster, you have to slow down. For me, the law said my ex could request more time. That was within the legal limits. But the environmental conditions, coercive control, manipulation, push and pull dynamics meant I had to adjust my speed. I had to reduce my speed to stop handing over power I didn't actually need to give. So relative speed matters as well. So maybe you're not failing because you're going slow or you need to slow down. Maybe you're actually being wise. Maybe you're actually being cautious. Healing at the speed of truth, not pressure. I'm going to say that again. What you can control and what will help you from risk and injury is to heal at the speed of your truth, not pressure. Driving at the speed of self-trust, not fear. So you can control your speed, the pace at which you move through your day, but are you paying attention to the slow zones? Or are you flooring it because you feel like you should just be further along, or I just need to get through this? Sometimes we have to remind ourselves of the speed limit. I know I do. Or give ourselves one, and then honor it. Early after my divorce, I was slow in many ways, slow to get out of bed, slow to do basic functions, slow to make decisions. Some days the weight of what lie ahead just of that day felt like too much. I remember thinking I should be doing more. I should be doing more. I should be moving faster. And why can't I just move on already? But now, if I could go back, and tell that version of me and just whisper in my own ear, that past self, and say, you're not behind. You're not broken. This is the speed limit for now. Relative to your grief, relative to your pain, relative to your nervous system, you're not supposed to go faster. There are school zones in life, construction zones, wreckage zones, and we need to slow down for them. Not because you're weak, because it's wise, because speeding through healing usually leads to more crashes. So, like autonomic nervous system crash. If you're moving slow right now, maybe that's exactly right. Maybe you're not stuck. You're just honoring the speed limit for this particular stretch of the road. I'm realizing as I'm talking that this is going to have to probably be a 2-part episode. So I'm just mentally preparing you now. I'm gonna do this in 2 parts because I want to get through all 6, but I know that you all are busy and I really try hard to not make these any longer than 30 minutes, but I can tell that my metaphorical brain is gonna go crazy with this one. And honestly, that way you'll have time to focus. And what I'll do is I'll give you a couple things to practice with just the first 3 that I will share today. Then you can practice those 3, then we'll get the next 3 next week. All right, next up is steering. So the first one was speed. Number 2 is steering. You can control the steering wheel. So in my defensive driving manual, the only explanation given under this section is keep both hands on the wheel. That's it. Simple but loaded, right? So how does this apply to a life-saving divorce? Well, think about it. One hand on the steering wheel means that you're distracted. Maybe you're gripping your phone, waiting for the next abusive text to come in and already planning what you're going to say. Perhaps one hand on the wheel is looking behind you, still wondering if you were enough, if you could have done something different, or if he had only done maybe then. Or with that one free hand, you're trying to grab onto something that isn't yours to hold anymore. How many moms do the one hand grab behind the back of the seat with the kids? You're trying to hand something to a kid, hold a kid's foot, whatever that is, right? We are distracted. We are more likely to have injury or incident when we're distracted that way because both hands are not on the wheel. What are you trying to grab with one hand that's not yours to grab? It's easy to drift out of your lane when you're not fully engaged, both hands on the wheel. Are you in your lane or are you drifting into someone else's lane? That could be your ex. That could be your ex's new partner. That could be your ex-in-laws. That could be what other people think and feel about you. That could be anything other than what is in your lane. Byron Katie says there's 3 types of business: God's business, other people's business, and your business. The only thing you have control over is your business, your lane. Keeping both hands on the wheel in life means that we're not half in and half out. You're not letting fear steer the wheel with one hand while obligation grabs another. You're not white knuckling it and scrolling for validation at the same time. You're not handing the wheel completely over to your ex or your guilt or your grief. And I mentioned guilt because so many women come through carrying unnecessary, unpurposeful guilt around children through divorce. I should do a whole episode on that. Both hands on the wheel is choosing to say, I may not know exactly where I'm going, but I'm the one driving. I'm not going to let anyone else swerve me off my course today. When you're navigating a life-saving divorce, especially in the fog of betrayal, when sometimes you cannot see but a foot out in front of you, it is so tempting to take one hand off the wheel and give someone else power to decide what happens next. But that's when we veer. That's when we crash. So 2 hands, eyes forward, heart in the car with you, and that's how you start moving through 1 mile at a time. Okay, the last one for today. Let's talk about the third one is following distance. So we have speed, we have both hands on the wheel, and the third thing in my manual is following distance. The distance between you and the car in front of you can make the difference between possible incident and injury. When you are driving, how closely you follow the car in front of you can make the difference between a near miss and a full-on collision. Too close, and you're at the mercy of their sudden stops. Too close, and you don't have time to react. Too close, and you're driving their drive instead of your own. So how does this show up in life? How does this relate to a life-saving divorce? If you're constantly up in someone else's lane, riding their butt, tracking your ex, checking their socials, trying to anticipate their next move, or comparing your healing timeline to theirs, to someone else's, you're too close. You're giving them the power to dictate your speed, your reaction time, and your direction. In fact, we are reacting instead of choosing at that point. Now, I do tend to tailgate when I'm driving, and that reaction time is shorter when I'm closer, when I'm not giving enough distance, when I'm crossing the boundary of the road that car has space to drive in. When I'm in their space, I don't have enough space to pause or respond. I have to slam on the brakes, swerve. It's stressful, it's unsafe, and it doesn't actually get me anywhere any faster. And when I think about it, I've done that in life too. When I'm not giving enough emotional or mental distance, when I'm tailgating someone else's process, their healing, or their vision or their version of truth, I lose my ability to respond calmly and I get reactive. And I start to cross over those emotional boundaries. I start to live their story instead of my own. How many of you might be doing this right now? When your ex or his family and maybe even friends have a different story about you, about the divorce, about why you're divorcing or the divorce is happening in general, the story is different. Are you tailgating? Are you tailgating their story? I remember when he remarried so soon, I was tailgating. I was not giving that emotional or mental distance. I was reacting and not responding. I couldn't see clearly what was really happening at the time, as I was making it mean that maybe something really was wrong with me, or maybe I really wasn't enough. Maybe he really didn't love me or our family. It made me question so many things that he moved on so fast. How can he move on when I'm still here broken to pieces? And just like on the road, when I'm too close, I can't see clearly. The bumper is taking up my whole view. So the following distance is really about self-respect, respecting your own time, respecting your own process, respecting your healing pace. It's also respecting that other people get to make their own choices, even if you don't agree with them. And this includes our children. Giving space doesn't mean that you don't care. It means you care well with boundaries. So the next time you're tempted to tailgate someone else's journey or hover over what your ex is doing, or even push yourself forward faster than your body and your heart might be ready for, just pause and ask, can I give this more space? Can I trust myself enough to back off a little and still be okay? Because your peace, I really want you to hear me here, your peace lives in the space between. That's where your reaction time is. That's where your clarity lives. That's where your creativity, your courage, your compassion, your connectedness to yourself live. A healthy following distance says, I'm aware of what's around me, but I'm not entangled in it. I don't need to tailgate their healing. I don't need to tailgate what they're saying about me. I don't need to tailgate what's happening over on his side of the street, even when the kids are with him, because I don't have control over that. I don't need to match their parenting energy, or what I often see happen here is try to outmatch. We think, true or not, they're a horrible parent. They're co-parenting like crap, which means you're parallel parenting. But we see what's happening on their side of the street parenting, and now we try to overcompensate for it. That, in essence, is you trying to drive their car. You're trying to one up and get a luxury car for your kids. It doesn't work. We don't need to follow someone else's expectations so closely, because you'll forget what you want and you'll forget what you need. And if you have children, you won't really see their needs either. After betrayal, it's really so easy to get hyper-focused on someone else's life and their decisions, because it's their decisions that impacted you. If you've been emotionally enmeshed or manipulated for years, it's also really, really hard to break to give that space, that following distance, more space. But creating the distance is where you reclaim your agency. Okay. It gives you the room to breathe, to observe, to respond, and not just react. The question for today is, what do I need to back up from just a little to feel safer, to have more of that peace, and to stay in control with what I have control in? Who or what am I following too closely? And what would happen if I gave myself a little bit more room? This is how you reduce incident and injury, not just from traffic, but from your life. Okay. So this week, here's what I'm going to have you practice with speed. Ask yourself, or this is can be a journal prompt too. Am I rushing myself today? Or do I need to give myself permission to slow down? Do I need to give myself a ticket because I've been speeding? Because I've been speeding through my healing process, or I've been trying to speed through this and I don't have control and I need to give myself permission to slow down. Steering? Who's really got the wheel right now? Is it me? Or is it someone else's opinions, someone else's needs, or someone else's energy? And then I gave you a couple for following distance, but I'm going to give you one more. Am I too close to something or someone that's pulling me out of my lane? And where do I need to give more space? You can write your answers. Like I said, you can journal prompt this, use voice notes in your phone, or just simply reflect. It's not about getting it perfect, y'all. It's about gently and compassionately bringing awareness back towards you, to your lane, and at your pace. Healing is not about how fast you go or how perfect your path looks or how closely you follow anyone else. It's about staying in your lane, keeping both hands on the wheel, honoring your pace that feels true for you, because you and only you are the chooser in your life. And you get to create the life that you want because you can. Take care, everybody.